Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here. What a great community of German media educators. I look forward to our dialogue today, so I thought I might offer some ideas to provoke the conversation that we're having about professionalization of media education. So first of all, let me start by saying that my slides are available to you online. If you go to the website bit.ly/Hobbs GMK 2017, please feel free to download the slides, to rework them, to improve them, make them better, right? So my website, Media Education Lab, a place where I do my scholarly work and my professional work, where our resources are also available to you free online. So today the theme of your conference, or one of the many questions that you're asking at this conference, is how can high quality media literacy education be implemented along the entire education chain in the short and long term? So I'd like to preview the three main arguments I'm going to try to communicate in the next 30 minutes. This is making noises. It's okay? Is that better? Down. Maybe I just talk like this. Technology. Maybe that's better. Yeah, that's better. Much better. Great. So here are the three main arguments that I'm going to try to make in the next 30 minutes. First, the state of digital and media literacy education is highly fragmented, but educators have a general consensus on the instructional practices that support lifelong learning. This is better. This is better. Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay, got it. So my first main idea, my second main idea. Technology. While the rise of so-called fake news. Okay. This is better, right? Technology. Hey. So my second big argument, while the rise of so-called fake news is providing increased visibility for media literacy education, it's also increasing the diversity of pedagogical approaches that contain hidden agendas. Third, teachers and students need to ask critical questions about new forms of digital media using digital tools to activate critical thinking through media creation. So let's just understand that first big argument. What is causing the fragmentation in the field of digital and media literacy education? So clearly the rapid changes in media and technology are at work, as well as our conflicting attitudes about media formats and genres, and our complex attitudes about educational technology, and the new terms and terminology that we're using, the new stakeholders, the wide array of teacher motivations, the influx of multidisciplinary paradigms, and of course, historic questions about best practices in the field. Let me review these items to try to understand and locate the sources of fragmentation in digital and media literacy education globally. Of course, we have a complex love-hate relationship with print, visual, sound, and digital media, and that has been a long-standing practice of media educators. We love and hate these media forms, and that tension is embedded in our work. At the same time, we also have a love-hate relationship with educational technology, with the smart boards and the platforms and the multimedia and the creative tools. And every single person in this room has something they love about these different forms of educational technology and something that deeply troubles them about the rise of these tools in the educational context. Of course, we've got an ever-changing array of terminology. These are the English language words, but if I were to do them in French or Italian, right, or Spanish or German, we would see the same proliferation of terminology, right? sometimes leading us to think we understand each other when we don't, other times making us think we do understand each other. And in the field of education more broadly, we've got a variety of exploding concepts and terms. ICT skills, digital skills, coding and programming, online reading, online learning, information literacy, media literacy, digital citizenship. So all of these terms and approaches each come with theoretical baggage, each come with a historical context, and really is signaling an expansion of the field overall. Now, we've always had some arguments in the field, and I trace this back to 1998 in my article, The 7 Great Debates in the Media Literacy Movement, about are we doing media education to empower or protect learners? Should we be making, media production, a central pedagogical practice to our work, or is it peripheral? Should we focus on popular culture texts, or are those too dangerous to bring into the classroom? Should we explicitly frame our work in an ideological context in relation to issues of power, and especially media power? Should we even try to do this in schools, which can be the most conservative and repressive of organizations? Perhaps this work is best done in the informal learning sector. Should it be integrated into the existing curriculum of the native language speaking or social studies or science? Or should it be a separate standalone subject, a professional subject with its own curriculum, its own classroom time? And should we accept financial support from media organizations to accelerate the work that can happen? All of these questions just as relevant today as they were in 1998, but also explain some of the fragmentation of the field. It turns out that each and every one of us is wrestling with this question when it comes to the future of digital and media literacy education. Are we reproducing, transforming, or challenging the educational status quo? And different people will come down differently on this question. Educators have a wide variety of perspectives about the most important priorities in the practice of education. So why don't we just try to find out what are the priorities for the folks who are in this room? If you have your technology available, I'd like you to find yourself at Slido. You can download that app if you'd like. That'll take a second or two. Or you can just type in sli.do and then use the code A957. Okay, are you ready? No? No, not yet? Too fast. All right. Give me a thumbs up when you have arrived. Okay, that's good. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, that's good. Here's your first question. How important is it to learn coding and programming? On a scale where 10 is of highest importance and 1 is lower importance. Okay, looks like most people are rating it about at a 7. We have 67 contributors. Thank you so much for sharing that clearly. Many of us in this room believe that coding and programming is a new literacy. In fact, when students learn to code, when I learn to code, I'm creating and composing. I'm writing with digital media. Let's take a look at the next question. Here you go. Oops, here we go. Okay. Oops, hold on here. Polls. How important is it to learn about online safety and privacy? on a scale of 10, with the very highest priority, to 1, meaning not important at all. Wow. Wow. Online privacy and safety is very important to German media educators. Who knew? Here's your third question. How important is it to learn to critically analyze advertising? Ten is of highest importance. And 1, oh, you can't access this one? Oh, voting closed. How could that be? Oh, I have to unlock it. There you go. Try now. Sorry about that. Thank you for letting me know. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. Wow. Okay. So I think the main idea here is that very good. Turn it off. Let's see if I can do that. Turn it off. Okay, turn it off. Hold on here. Why is it not turning off? Oh, there we go. Good show. Took a little while. So I guess the point here is that educators do have differing perspectives about the most important ideas for practice, but there is widespread consensus about the instructional processes that promote lifelong learning. I'm going to try to illustrate that by sharing with you some stories about educators in the United States who are doing media literacy in relation to the practices of accessing, analyzing, creating, reflecting, and taking action. In fact, it turns out that there is a widespread belief among American educators that these 8 essential outcomes or learning practices are important for students in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, and even at university. So let's take a look at an example of a teacher who's doing some media education work with young children, and we'll see how these outcomes are being enacted. This is Nikki. Nikki is a motivator in the motivation scale that we developed. She's a person whose value priority is in cultivating students' autonomy as independent learners who go where their creativity takes them. She's working with a group of 7-year-old children in Philadelphia, and she's just started a unit on advertising. Let's take a look.
What's the name of the brand in that ad?
Gap.
All right, someone else find me another brand in an ad. Come on, Jasmine. Find another brand that's being advertised. Oh, there's another Gap ad. Good job, Troy.
It's a whole
Let's see,
lot.
magazines are filled with advertisements. What's this, Kayla?
Gap.
What's this? What were you just looking at? Go back to that page. That's an advertisement.
Gap. That's an advertisement.
Show me where the logo is. Show me what the logo is. Right there, right there. What does it say?
Says EALEMENT.
All right, that's Element. What about this? Show me some more. What is this, the Gap again? Oh, one-a-day vitamins. Right, right, right. And what is this? What does this say? Tell me what that says.
Okay, so as this lesson goes on, the teacher discovers that not all children in this classroom can recognize advertising. She notices that some kids are confused between editorial content and advertising. So she's got a good diagnostic in her first session engaging learners with what she needs to work on. In fact, she's helping children to find, comprehend, and interpret media content. And she's helping begin the process of having students critically analyze how media messages are constructed so they can recognize ads. Here's Rachel. She's an activist. Her goal is to support students' civic engagement by engaging with media and technology to address real-world issues. With her grade 3 students, she worked on helping students acquire knowledge about the problem of homelessness in the United States. And students researched the topic of homelessness. They produced a 14-page comic book using original art and digital software tools. They shared that 14-page comic book with the entire school community. Every parent got a copy to take home. So in this case, we see many of these outcomes being activated as students compose or create messages in a variety of forms, and they plan and implement some action in terms of a school-related outreach project to the entire community. Here's Nuela. Nuela is a trendsetter. She wants to meet students where they live by connecting the classroom to contemporary popular culture. Her students have created a talk show. Let's take a look.
I'm Octavio, and I'm here with
Ashanti,
Malachi.
Addie.
Jayla,
Vince.
And this is Poppin' Tea Time. Today we'll be talking about athletes kneeling during the national anthem. Last year, Colin Kaepernick began sitting down and eventually kneeling during the national anthem at the beginning of the games to bring attention to police killing black people. Now, more athletes are joining the cause by kneeling, and it's caused a lot of controversy. People are saying to just shut up and play. What I want to ask you guys is athletes kneeling during the national anthem an act of peaceful protest, or is it actually a disturbance to the game and entertainment itself?
I think it's peaceful because they're just trying to catch the attention of people, and a lot of people watch the NFL. Kneeling is just trying to catch the attention of everyone, and even though Donald Trump is going off about it, he shouldn't be worried about it really, because they're just trying to protest peacefully on just something that's been going on for a long time.
The whole issue behind this protest is being forgotten and left out. I don't think anyone is really talking about the whole Black Lives Matter or the fact that police are killing black people. So I think more attention needs to be brought to that issue and not just like kneeling.
Okay, so this program allows students to engage in collaborative dialogue, sharing ideas through discussion. They're also creating a product, but they're really learning how to share ideas in a discussion-based format and to reflect on the current issues of the day. This is Scott. Scott's a professor. He wants students to gain content knowledge by using media and technology to advance learning goals. He's a high school history teacher, and here's a description of the work of his students.
Students from Thomas Jefferson High School in Northern Virginia used their inspiration from a visit to the museum to create original interactive tools.
I think any student, if you challenge them not to just create something for themselves, but for others, that's a great thing.
Katie Earle was team leader on a project comparing 2 photo essays on Japanese-American internment camps during World War II. One showed negative images and was heavily censored by our government. The team made the lesson for the user simple and clear.
They need to understand right away why there were photographers around the Japanese internment camps. They need to understand right away that censorship is something that the U.S. government has engaged in. One of my team members created a front page for the website that would outline all of those things very quickly in a very vivid, graphic way.
In this classroom exercise, the museum served as the client to the students' creativity.
The kids learned about the topics in American history from their history teacher and did research papers using the things they learned in their English class. And then using the things that they learned in their technology class, they combined that knowledge and put that together to create the exhibits.
You can't teach someone who's not engaged. So they learned that skill from the museum, and then they collaborated with each other to share the fruits of their learning adventure in a way that would hopefully be engaging to others.
Okay, so in this initiative, we see a lot of the learning competencies being activated as students find, comprehend, and interpret content. They gain knowledge and information. They have to examine the quality of those resources to critically analyze how the messages are constructed. And then they create a web-based educational tool to represent their knowledge. So pretty much tackling all of these issues. Now, the deep consensus that's beginning to emerge among American educators happened as a result of things like you're doing today, through gatherings, through conferences, through journal publications, through sharing of best practices, and through debate. Consensus is emerging about the instructional practices that support lifelong learning. So even though we may have different priorities for what's most important, we have deep consensus about some instructional practices that are vital for learning. Now let me quickly tackle my second point here about the rise of so-called fake news leading to diversity of pedagogical approaches that contain hidden agendas. So this term fake news is very problematic to us as media literacy educators. It's a term that conceals more than it reveals. Of course, we were shocked when it rose to prominence last year during the election. And some of us have even been wondering if this signals our move into a post-truth era. But it turns out that research is helping us gain a better understanding of the complexities of these issues. So the Stanford History Education Group has a really great prompt they offer to high school students. You're researching, for example, the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Please decide if this website is a trustworthy source of information. You can open a new tab and do an internet search if you want. Take about 5 minutes to complete this task. You're asked 2 questions. Is this website a trustworthy source? And explain your answer. Using evidence from the web pages you used, be sure to provide the URLs to the web pages you cite. So here's the target. Students are asked to critically analyze this website. Well, now, what might they do? They might look up at the top and see IMGUR, and they might look around and figure out, what is that, right? They might type in the phrase Fukushima nuclear flowers and see if they get other images that are similar to this, right? But in the Stanford history study, only 20% of American high school students clicked on the source, the author. It's kind of hard to read, in blue, by please Google Shakir Amr and some other guy. If you click on that blue tab, you realize it's 2 goofballs. 2 goofballs using the internet, right, as a form of play. But only 20% of American high school students question the photo source. In another really important experimental research finding, Joe Kahn used a representative sample of 1,500 young adults ages 15 to 27 from across the state of California, right? And participants were asked to evaluate the accuracy of misinformation, emotional, and evidence-based arguments that took the form of a little GIF like this, an image with some text. Of course, we're not surprised to learn that participants' assessments of accuracy depended on their pre-existing attitudes and political knowledge. But the participants who reported more exposure to media literacy education made a clear distinction between evidence-based arguments and misinformation, even when the information was aligned with their own existing political attitudes. That is a huge and important finding. He measured, for those of you who are interested in measurement and assessment, he measured exposure to media literacy education with just 2 questions. He asked the participants, how often have you discussed how to tell if the information you find online is trustworthy? When you were in school. How often have you discussed the importance of evaluating the evidence that backs up people's opinions? From this, we have our best evidence on how many students, in the state of California at least, get exposed to media literacy education, and that's about 35%. Only about 35% of students say yes to these two questions, which means we have a lot of work to do. 70%, almost 70% of students don't get this exposure in school. So clearly, media literacy is a pedagogy of inquiry, where asking questions is the big, big idea. But as new stakeholders enter into our field, folks from media and technology businesses, folks from government, folks from the activist community, folks from civil society organizations, and creative people, as new stakeholders join us in our effort to bring media literacy to every learner, we're going to have to address issues of hidden agendas, because it's more important than ever before for teachers to learn how to recognize and assess the values and points of view that are embedded in curriculum resources. I would consider this to be a competency of professionalization. Every educator needs to learn how to do this. Let's start with my own digital platform, Mind Over Media. MindOverMedia.tv teaches students how to critically analyze propaganda. Anyone can upload an example of propaganda from all over the world, and then students are invited to critically analyze and reflect on that propaganda. Here's one that's coming up for our Thanksgiving holiday. It's a meme. It has a picture of our historic Thanksgiving Day holiday, when the starving English colonists were fed by the Native Americans in the New World. And the meme says, "The irony of refusing aid and assistance to refugees and migrants while preparing to celebrate a holiday about receiving aid and assistance as refugees and migrants." So in the United States, the tension that we experience about refugee crisis, this is embodied in this little meme. When asked to rate this as beneficial or harmful, notice that 36% of the people who came to this website thought it was beneficial, but 19% of the people who came to this website thought that meme was harmful propaganda, distorting people's ideas about immigration. So the hidden agenda of the Mind Over Media website is that students do not need to be protected from propaganda. They need opportunities to discuss and evaluate it. And the idea that propaganda can be beneficial or harmful depending on the interpretation of the reader. You might agree or disagree with this ideology, this hidden agenda that exists, that is embedded in the curriculum. Here's another new curriculum that's come forward recently from the Newseum, the Museum of News, located in Washington, D.C. They're providing free learning tools on media literacy about our First Amendment freedoms. In fact, there's a big lesson plan on teaching about the First Amendment, where students learn that if we didn't have the First Amendment, religious minorities would be persecuted, and the government could establish a national religion, and individuals would be punished for expressing unpopular views, and protesters would be silenced, and the press could be banned from criticizing government, and citizens could be prevented from gathering together to work for or against social change. This curriculum also has a hidden agenda, because this curriculum suggests that there are no disadvantages to the First Amendment's protection of freedom of expression. This curriculum suggests that there are no legal alternatives to balancing freedom and social responsibility apart from tolerating speech that we hate. This curriculum has a hidden agenda. You might agree with it or disagree with it, but you have to learn how to recognize it. Here's another new player in the U.S. media literacy scene, the News Literacy Project. Can your students tell the difference between fact and fiction? Use the Checkology platform, right? Well, it looks something like this. It's an online learning platform. It's got modules. You work your way through it. Things like getting the story, practicing quality journalism, recognizing bias, checking credibility, evaluating information. But this curriculum has a hidden agenda. It argues that mainstream media professionals use processes of verification that ensure that information is unbiased, trustworthy, and believable. Moreover, it asserts that online learning enables students to learn news literacy competencies independent of the social context of peers or teachers. It asserts that these are skills you can learn individually on your own using an online learning platform. Now, you might agree or disagree with these claims, but they are part of the hidden agenda of the curriculum. And finally, the distinguished KQED, our public broadcaster in San Francisco, collaborated with a civil society organization, the EFF Electronic Frontier Foundation. They've created a curriculum called Protecting Students' Online Privacy in the Classroom. Very interesting curriculum. But if we look at it carefully, we recognize it has a hidden agenda too. It has a hidden agenda that argues that privacy issues go deeper than just students' use of social media, and students should be suspicious of ed tech tools because many educational technology companies merely want to collect big data. So basically, as a matter of professionalizing our field, we have to learn that curriculum resources always have a point of view. They always present an ideology. And learning to recognize and assess the values and points of view that are embedded in curriculum resources is an essential professional standard for media educators of the 21st century. All right, finally, let me just say that, again, my bias is that asking questions needs to be at the heart of this practice of media and digital literacy, and that there's a lot of cool online tools that can promote the practice of asking questions in a way that supports students' intellectual curiosity. I'm a big fan of Flipgrid. Flipgrid.com allows students to engage in online dialogue with each other, right? And it's a terrifically fun tool to use. Ant is a video annotation tool that allows me to put any YouTube video into a frame that lets my students comment, slowing down the process of watching a video in order for students to engage in a critical analysis. I think all media educators around the world need to be using video annotation tools to promote critical analysis of moving image media. And so today I'm going to issue you a challenge. I'd like you to, with your cell phone, create a sequence of 5 to 7 photos to capture ideas and information from this conference today. I'm going to start here by taking a picture. Okay, I've got my first photo. I just need 6 more. Then create a 30-second slideshow. One tool you might want to use is Share Alike. It's super fun and it's super easy to use. Why am I inviting you to create media as a way to represent your learning today at this conference? Because I think creating media is the best way to learn. I think when we create media, we transform our relationship to it, and we start thinking about our social responsibilities as not just as consumers, but as creators. So I invite you to join me this summer at the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy. We have about 120 participants from 25 states and 12 countries. One of the things that I think is important about these kinds of gatherings, including your own great conference here, is bringing together people from different sectors. Folks in elementary and secondary education, with college faculty, with librarians, with media professionals, with youth media staff. So I think I've argued my 3 big ideas, that the state of media literacy is really fragmented, but we agree on some instructional practices that support lifelong learning, that this so-called fake news phenomenon is creating a lot of opportunities for new stakeholders to enter the educational space, but it also increases the diversity of hidden agendas, and that all educators need to learn how to recognize those hidden agendas. And finally, that asking critical questions can be combined with media creation tools to accomplish this goal, because we are jointly responsible for advancing digital and media literacy, and the future of education depends on our making bold and strategic efforts with learners of all ages. Thanks very much.